You stand in a warm kitchen with a mug between your hands. Steam curls past your face. The refrigerator hums behind you. And through the glass, you watch a rabbit nibble grass beside the fence. Then you slide open the door. The rabbit freezes. Its ears snap toward you. 1 second later, it is gone. White tail flashing, claws tearing at the soil, as if you stepped outside carrying a loaded weapon instead of a cup of coffee. To you, this is almost funny. You are barefoot, you are half awake. You could not catch that rabbit if your life depended on it. But the rabbit is not judging you by this morning, so the question is simple. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor, and almost every wild animal can outrun you. Why do creatures from sparrows to elephants so often treat you like the most dangerous thing in the landscape? Start with the uncomfortable answer. Sometimes they are more afraid of you than of the predators built to kill them. In 2023, biologist Liana Zanette and her team placed hidden camera and speaker systems at 21 waterholes in South Africa's Greater Kruger landscape. When animals came close, the speakers played lions, growling, dogs barking, gunshots, harmless bird calls, or people speaking calmly in Tsonga, Northern Sotho, English, and Afrikaans. Nothing shouted. Nobody threatened them. Across 4,238 encounters involving 19 mammal species, the animals were twice as likely to run from human voices as from lions. They also abandoned the waterholes about 40% faster, and 95% of the species either fled more often or left sooner when they heard people. Think about that for a second. Giraffes, zebras, hyenas, leopards, warthogs, rhinoceroses, and elephants live beside lions. They know exactly what a lion can do. Yet the sound of an ordinary conversation, something you barely notice in a grocery store, was enough to empty the water. The savanna did not hear a tourist. It heard the top predator. That sounds ridiculous until you stop measuring predators by their bodies. A lion is dangerous because it is a lion. Its weapons are attached to it: teeth, muscle, claws, speed. If the lion is 50 meters away, the prey can calculate the risk. If it has eaten, the risk may fall. If it is injured alone or sleeping, the rules change. Your ancestors broke those rules. They could carry the dangerous parts separately. At Schöningen in northern Germany, archaeologists found carefully shaped wooden hunting weapons beside the remains of butchered horses. A 2025 dating study placed the famous spear horizon at roughly 200,000 years ago, most likely within the age of Neanderthals. These were not random sharpened branches. They were balanced tools made by people who understood wood, weight, and flight. Modern experiments with replicas showed that trained throwers could strike targets at distances up to 20 meters. The accuracy was far from perfect, but that misses the point. One hunter did not need to be perfect when several hunters could surround a herd, predict an escape route, and throw together. Here is what does not make sense until you think about it. An animal can outrun your body, but it cannot outrun your plan. Your ancestors watched tracks. They remembered water sources. They used fire, dogs, traps, cliffs, camouflage, and one another. They could attack from beyond the reach of horns or hooves, then follow blood, return later, and share what they learned with people who had never seen the animal. Your weakness forced you to become dangerous in a different way, and then your species became dangerous in a way most predators never do. Natural predators usually live inside limits. They spend energy chasing prey, risk injury during the attack, and often target the young, the weak, or the unlucky. A broken tooth can end a wolf's life. A shattered leg can starve a lion. You learn to move the risk away from yourself. In 2015, ecologist Chris Darramont and his colleagues compared 2,125 estimates of predation by human hunters and fishers with predation by other animals. Their global analysis found that humans killed adult prey, the breeding core of adult population, at median rates up to 14 times higher than non-human predators, with especially intense pressure on fishes and large carnivores. That difference matters. A lion takes what it can catch. You can select the largest antlers, the biggest body, the breeding adult, or the animal valuable enough to justify traveling hundreds of miles. You can arrive in a boat, a truck, or a helicopter. You can kill without being hungry. You can return in another season with better tools to an animal that makes you hard to read. Here's the part nobody talks about. Fear is not only a response to strength, it is a response to uncertainty. A deer can learn where wolves hunt. A seal can learn when sharks patrol, but your species changes the landscape itself. A quiet trail becomes a road. A forest becomes a field. A harmless person becomes a hunter, while another person leaves food. The same human shape can mean safety, noise, capture, death, or nothing at all. Unpredictability is its own weapon. But animals are not simply born with a magical category labeled human. Much of this fear is learned, refined, and sometimes passed through a group like a warning story. Near Seattle, researchers led by John Marsliff trapped and banded wild American crows while wearing distinctive human masks. Later, people wearing the dangerous masks walked through the same areas without touching the birds. The crows recognized the faces, scolded them, followed them, and remembered them for at least 7 years. Then something stranger happened. The crows that had never been trapped began joining the alarm calls. The knowledge spread socially, from experienced birds to mates, neighbors, and younger crows. The face of one dangerous person became community information. Your reputation can travel without you. Elephants perform an even more precise calculation. In a 2014 study in Kenya's Amboseli region, Karen McComb and her colleagues played recordings of different people speaking the same phrase. The elephants reacted more defensively to Maasai male voices than to Kamba voices, and they responded more strongly to adult male voices than to women or boys. In that place and period, adult Maasai men posed a greater historical risk during conflicts with elephants. The animals were not panicking at every human sound. They were sorting people by language, sex, and age, using tiny clues in a voice to estimate danger. That is not blind terror. That is intelligence under pressure. And once fear enters an animal's life, it does more than make the animal run. It changes when the animal eats, where it travels, whom it meets, and whether it has enough energy to raise young. In 2018, Caitlin Gaynor and her colleagues combined 76 studies covering 62 mammal species across 6 continents. Around human disturbance, mammals became an average of 136 times more nocturnal. In plain English, animals shifted more of their lives into darkness because darkness was when you were less likely to be. There, the forest changes shifts around you. Pumas in California show how deep this can go. In a 2017 field experiment, researchers played recordings of human speech near feeding pumas. The cats fled more often, stayed away longer, and cut their feeding time by more than half compared with control sounds. A predator heard your voice and abandoned its own kill. So even when you never fire a weapon, your presence can ripple outward. A puma eats less at one carcass and may hunt again sooner. Deer change routes. Smaller animals enter spaces the puma avoids. Plants feel the difference through browsing. You can reshape an ecosystem without touching a single animal. Then why does a city pigeon walk across your shoes? Why does a park squirrel stare at you like you owe it money? Because animal fear is not a simple on-off switch. It is a living calculation. When generations experience humans who mostly pass by, drop food, or obey predictable paths, running too early wastes energy. Animals can become habituated, which simply means repeated harmless exposure turns the alarm down. Some learn individual faces, some learn uniforms, vehicles, voices, or whether you are looking directly at them, and where predators have been absent for long periods, fear can fade even further. A 2014 comparison of 66 lizard species found that island populations allowed a closer approach than mainland relatives, and lizards on more remote islands tended to flee later. With little danger, the constant panic becomes expensive and useless. Here is the twist. The fearless animal is not necessarily braver. It may simply have less history. That is why island animals were so vulnerable when people arrived with dogs, cats, pigs, rats, and weapons. Their calmness had once been sensible. Then the rules changed faster than evolution could update them. Fear, in other words, is not cowardice. It is information. Your ancestors came at animals with distance, teamwork, memory, technology, and uncertainty. Animals answered with early flight, sharper attention, social warnings, night-shifted lives, and an astonishing ability to tell one kind of human from another. They did not need to understand spears, rifles, roads, or engines. They only needed to notice which choices kept them alive. And that should change the way you see the rabbit. Outside your kitchen, when it bolts from the scrape of your door, it is not insulting you. It is making a decision shaped by countless encounters, some recent, some ancient, some learned from parents, and some carved slowly into the behavior of its species. You stand there with warm coffee cooling in your hand, safe behind glass, feeling like the harmless observer. But from the other side of that glass, you belong to the animal that learned to kill from a distance, teach danger to its children, and transform an entire landscape without showing its teeth. Every animal that runs from you is carrying a memory your species left in the world.